This is a question that is interesting because it's not always like this. I find as I move forward in my Kriya practice, things become easier, softer, particularly my emotional life, which has always been very intense and difficult. Do you find Kriya Yoga and service help us with difficult emotions, particularly fear, anger, worry? And I think sometimes some of us find that putting out a lot of energy actually can bring up some emotions. So really the question is how we deal with emotions that come up, because we get caught up in these intense situations, being action-oriented yogis. And so how we work with calming the waves of the feeling of the heart and transcending, transmuting these emotions into something more divine, like kindness and generosity and all these things. So just a few comments about that would be nice.
Well, it's very easy for many of us, especially during these turbulent times here in America, especially. We have so much politically going on that's fearful, causes fear in people. I know I have certainly felt fear, and because our way of life is being threatened, it's just a very difficult time. And so what I have had to do is go inside and relax into the thought that God is in charge. And it sounds sort of simplistic, but you have to actually feel it in your heart. I have to trust that God has the world in his hands, and that the great masters of this path, Babaji in particular, is calling the shots. It's early Dwapara Yuga, and so Devarshi, the last conversation the three of us had, you were talking about how Dwapara Yuga and its energy is energizing the remnants of Kali Yuga, making them more powerful. And that idea has been very prevalent in my mind since we talked about that. And some of these remnants of Kali Yuga are very threatening. They're so much the antithesis of what we believe and what we are moving forward in. And so a lot of fear comes from that. But I have found great success in just relaxing into trusting God. There was a person, I forget who it was, in India, one of these monks of a different path, or some high person that we met there, who was saying that Swami Kriyananda was like a kitten on Divine Mother's lap, just going with whatever she wanted to do. And so I often think of that, just being like a little child or a little kitten with Divine Mother, doing whatever she wanted. So letting go of fear and other emotions. And sometimes it hasn't happened for a while, thank God, but sometimes I would wake up in the night just fearing for our country and fearing for what was happening here in America. And I would have to repeat this affirmation, and I would do it until I would fall asleep again. And the affirmation I used was just, I live in the light of God's perfect love. I live in the light of God's perfect love. And just allowing myself to be held in that perfect love of God, and then letting everything else drift away.
The chant that we sang at the beginning, When I Awake, contains a verse that touches on this very topic. When I awake, I'll end all fear. When I awake, I'll find thy love. And it's helpful to recognize, and it's not an automatic understanding that, I mean, it will come eventually, but it's not automatic, that fear is ego. Fear is, because the ego is trying to protect. The ego has a job
Yes.
to do, and it's an important job. That job is to keep us in this body for as long as possible. I mean, that's among other things, but its job is to honor the kingdom of the body and the material consciousness, which is great to a point. And then it's a disaster after that, because it's a complete impediment to our spiritual growth, which is to overcome that bondage to body consciousness. And the ego is fearful if there is some challenge to our safety or to whatever it may be, all these things that Nirmala is talking about. And we have to recognize that, because when we identify it as ego, then we can say, oh, okay, it's time to transcend that. And Kriya gives us that. You go into bliss, ego, in English we would say ego, schmigo. I mean, it's just like, come on. Once you're in that bliss, you can't be fearful. It's like, are you afraid of yourself? I don't think so. I mean, you can't be afraid of what is your own, and if the entire universe is your own, then what's there to fear? I love in the chant, Desire My Great Enemy, the very last verse is, control the little pranayam, which is to say, control the breath, control the movement of the currents like we do in Kriya. Control the little pranayam, become all-pervading pranayam. And then the conclusion, you won't have to fear anything anymore. And we could just emblazon that, print that verse and paste it on your refrigerator, or put it on your altar, or put it right there on your forehead. Control the little pranayam. Okay, that's a challenge. Once you do that, though, you will become all-pervading pranayam. And once you do that, you won't have to fear anything anymore. And of course, anger is related, because anger says, no, but I wanted it this way, and it didn't come to me this way. My desire was thwarted. I'm angry. I'm upset. Well, then we have to work our way back and say, why did I want that again? And, if we squeeze the hose of the divine flow in our lives, we can't be upset that there's less water coming out. We have to relax the grip and allow that flow to come again. But these are good challenges, and for Devarshi we could go on and on and on, but I think we should probably get ready for our meditation now.
Okay, thank you so much. These were really good answers, and you didn't once say, I don't know, which was really
Well, I don't know, but sometimes I think. Anyway.